Hello everybody, it's Joel, your host, and welcome to the Joel Let Me Show series of the monthly haul. This is the check-in for October of 2023. Now, you might find yourself asking, now why did you just randomly decide to upload a monthly haul all of a sudden in October as opposed to starting it back up in January when I could get a clean sweep all the way through a year? And the explanation there is because I'm tired of not posting and not creating content. And the other reason is it's my birthday month. So give some shout outs to people because there's some creators, some fellow creators that I've also gotten the honor of being friends with. And I wanted to give some of them some shout outs and show off some of the really cool stuff that I got and kind of allude to some possible future content ideas that I've been tossing around in my head for a little while. There's a little bit of just kind of why I'm starting the monthly haul back now, but some more general stuff that I've just wanted to say to you guys, the audience, and especially my new audience, and kind of some of my older audience members, not by age, but some audience members that have been with the Joel Let Me Show viewing its content for a longer period of time. But to all of my audience members, regardless of how long you've been watching my content, the kind of big spaced out periods of me not posting content and being away from YouTube is done. I'm going to be trying my darnest to get back to YouTube, and I want to be posting weekly with the added addition of a monthly haul. So that will be 5 videos a month, just one per week at the tail end, which will be a normal product review, which is not my intent to continue going forward with the Joel Let Me Show. I don't really like doing product reviews as my core content because it's not original, it's not me. There's not a lot of creativity input from myself put into that content. However, speaking of, I've been away from making content for a very long while, and I'd like to get back to making YouTube videos and making content for the world to see. It's been way too long, and it doesn't sit right with me. It never has, not creating anything. So those are the two things that will be coming back first, and the monthly haul will be sticking around for much longer. I don't think I'm ever really going to end it because, as I said earlier, because there's a lot of people that I now know that when I stopped doing YouTube way back in 2021, I didn't know. So this gives me a chance to give some compliments and some shout outs to some of those people. Anyways, with enough of me yapping, I'm going to try my very best to go in sort of chronological order. A lot of this stuff has been kind of cherry picked from over the last, well, realistically the last couple of years. There's a couple things in here from a long while back, but it's a lot of the special things that I think need to be in this sort of comeback video. Anywho, so starting with the earliest thing that I remember getting on this table is a taxi sign off of the top of, well, a taxi. Whenever I see a Jeep Cherokee, an old XJ, to clarify, not the newer ones, but whenever I see a Cherokee in the junkyard, I'll go and take a look, regardless of how long it's been there or how good it looks. You never know what you might find. I passed a taxi along the way, and I was like, whoa, the sign is still on top of the taxi. How cool would it be to have a taxi sign? So before I even went to the Jeep, I was like, I don't care if I miss something on that Jeep. I got to get this taxi sign because I think having a taxi sign would be really cool. I mean, I have one. It is pretty cool. And one of these days, as I said, it's very brittle and it has some cracks. And it was a bit of a pain to get off because, as you can see, previously some bulb got way too hot in here and like melted the plastic and warped some of this so it doesn't sit properly together anymore. But anywho, one of these days, what I'd like to do is wire up a set of lights, one working normally and then the other half kind of flickering. Probably the side that's already cracked because it looks more worn. And maybe someday, maybe I'll make a video on that because I think it'd be fun to document it if I ever find a proper way to do it because I don't really know a lot about how to artificially make a light bulb flicker. But anywho, a project for another day. This is technically the first Polaroid camera ever made. That was released in 1948, and this one has a lot of really nifty features that, well, are rudimentary by today's standards, but back when this came out, would have been very, very new to the time and would have been revolutionary to some degree. Like this little light meter, not necessarily a new feature, but first time I actually saw a light meter that still worked to some degree. Inaccurate, but still works. It gets a lot cooler looking when you press this metal engraved Polaroid logo, and then the entire front end pops out just like that. that'll fasten into place. Here's your lens, and then you've got the entire like shadow booth. I really love the look of these older cameras. One of my aunts collects these older cameras and kind of got me into collecting them for display purposes. I still have some that function, and I love shooting with older cameras sometimes, but this one in particular very well might still be functional because, well, as you can tell, it's in shockingly good condition. But anywho, this camera, I am very certain somewhere will make a excellent display piece. It represents a time period, a bygone era that had a sort of a sense of style. And then the back end opens up, and this is where you would insert your film and whatnot. There's the back end. You can see a bunch of instructions there, which is all still original printing. And then while we're on the topic, the reason that I had mentioned earlier that this is technically the very first camera that Polaroid ever made was because this is a Model 95, and there were 3 iterations of this camera, or at least 3 popular iterations of this camera. There was the Model 95A and the Model 95B. The 95A and the 95B were the same camera, but with mechanical improvements. I don't know exactly what the changes were, but I know that they are different, and A and B, of course, came after the 95 without any added letter or piece of text after that. So this camera very well could have been made anywhere between the period of 1948 and somewhere, I believe, in the mid-50s is when Polaroid transitioned from the 95 to the 95A. So this camera is been around for a little while, and to whoever owned it previously, I got it at a antique store, by the way, and it cost me, oh goodness, the tag isn't on it anymore, but I think I got this for $80, which is a steep price for one singular old camera that I don't even know if it functions. But as I said earlier, a lot of me didn't get this for it to be functioning. I really wanted this as a display piece. With the camera carefully put out of the way, we got a couple Nintendo related things here. This is the first Game Boy ever made, and this kind of goes back to the Polaroid camera. This, much like that camera, is the very first product of its kind. This is the very first handheld game console from Nintendo, released in 1989, and it's a perfect candidate for what I wanted to do. I deliberately wanted to get a Game Boy that needed attention and needed restoration, and this one is in perfect condition to need a restoration, but it's also worth putting the work into because as it stands, physically, it's in good condition. Everything is here, even the battery door. When looking at older, especially the original Game Boy, you will notice quite quickly that the battery doors for the original Game Boys are pretty hard to come across. This one came with Mario Golf, I believe is how you would say it. It just says Golf on the card, but I'm sure it's called Mario Golf because, you know, Mario's there, putting. The faceplate around the screen didn't come with it. I got a plastic one that is original. It's not an aftermarket one. With the faceplate just set on there, you can see what the Game Boy is meant to look like in its complete form. And as I'd said, I got both of, well, I didn't say this earlier, but I got this off of eBay, and I also got this off of eBay. This was at a very good price, which I remember that very distinctly, which is why I was able to get my hands on it. Because original Game Boys in good restored condition can go for a lot of money, which is why I was surprised to find one of these, because not too long ago, it was a semi-popular thing to be restoring retro game consoles and whatnot, so I was very happy to find and get my hands on one of these that still hasn't been restored, so, you know, I can kind of play along to that, well, now dying out trend of sorts, and breathe some life back into this old Game Boy and hopefully get it working again, as currently, it doesn't work. While we're on the topic of handhelds, here is a Crimson Red DS Lite, released in 2006, which has been my dream variant of the DS Lite to have for a long time now. Many years I've wanted this specific version, and a little while back I was scrolling through eBay, much like that original Game Boy, and I came across this for a very nice price with a surprisingly good condition original Nintendo AC adapter, and it's got all of its stuff. It's complete. It's got the battery that's not exploding and turning into a pillow of sorts. It's got the original Nintendo cover for the GBA slot. It's got the original stylus, and everything is here. It's a lot of little small things, but it's the small things that put it all together and really made it super exciting for me when I got this. And I've been grinding the original Plants vs. Zombies on this thing for a little while now, and I couldn't be any more happier with this DS. I believe I got it for 70 or 80. It was somewhere around there in that ballpark, kind of similar to a DS, so very good price. And with the Crimson Red DS Lite set next to the original Game Boy, the last Nintendo related thing I have here today is a run-of-the-mill original Nintendo GameCube purple controller. There's not a lot to say about this in particular, but not too long ago, well, a little while ago, but not too long ago, relatively speaking, I got into the older game consoles, if you can tell with the original Game Boy. But a couple years back, I got a Nintendo 64 in very good condition as a really, really generous gift from my mother. And on the topic of retro game consoles, I was introducing that I have a GameCube that I inherited. I actually took my GameCube to school and played Double Dash with a couple of my friends in the tail end of my broadcast journalism class, so it was really, really a lot of fun, and I have to give props to the GameCube for giving me some really nice memories, even after its prime has long faded out. But, you know, there's still a good community, and this is a good example of a really nice and well taken care of GameCube controller that someone cared for, and, well, I now have the responsibility of writing this controller's next chapter of life, which I plan on planning to do the same thing and making several more memories. So I've gotten some pretty cool stuff off of eBay. If you're into retro game consoles or anything like that, model trains or RC cars, there's some really, really nice secondhand stuff that in many cases has been taken really good care of and has a lot of opportunity for a second chance at life with somebody else, and that person could be you if you're into any of this stuff. Speaking of being the second owner of something, here is a Team Associated 1 to 10th scale RC10 T4. This is a sort of track car. I would call it a buggy, but it's not necessarily a buggy. It's much more geared toward being a track car. This, I believe, was released in 2004, so it's a fairly old design. The bottom end will kind of show you it's an earlier model, but it's still got a lot of potential. I bought this off of one of my friends for a very, very generous $80, which $80 seems to be a reoccurring number in this monthly haul. But underneath the body here, everything is here. The original receiver, the original ECS. In fact, I believe the shocks are original too. It's got some really nice grippy tires in the rear, and then it's got, I guess, I wouldn't even know what you would call these, like, professionally, or, well, formally speaking, if they have a proper name, which I'm sure they do. My forte is, you can kind of see Clifford up here. This is my 1/10th scale Axial SEX 10.2. RC cars, I've always been into crawlers. I've never done the buggies or the track cars very much. I was told that it didn't have a motor. Maybe I was mishearing that, but it does have a motor, so it's a brushed motor. I'll probably convert it to brushless eventually because, well, brushed motors, they don't last too long, and, well, there's some other implications that come along with using them a lot, which is why they got phased out. Brushed or brushless became more favorable. And for any of you that might be interested, any leftover audience members from when I was doing stuff with the 1/10 scale crawlers and all that stuff, if you'd like to see some more RC content, throw it in the comments maybe, and, well, I'll see what I can do. So, placing this T4 carefully to the side, let's go ahead and move on to this real quick. A little bit of Five Nights at Freddy's related stuff, which, speaking of, shout out to my friend Ivan. He'll get another shout out later, but big shout out to my friend Ivan. Here's a couple photos from my Instagram of when I went to go see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie with him opening day, and oh my goodness, bloody hell was it amazing. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie was not disappointing at all. I purposefully tried my very best to ignore social media posts and reels and shorts, whatever you want to call them, that were talking smack about the movie and saying that it was going to be rushed and underproduced and whatnot. It was not any of those things. It was very well produced and very faithfully done. The animatronics in the movie, oh my goodness. To the prop designers and the set designers and the producers and everyone that worked on that movie, you'll never see this, but thank you so much. The movie it turned out amazing, and the fan base, based off of numbers, statistically speaking right now, and for Blumhouse, it's the largest, best performing movie that Blumhouse has ever created, and obviously Universal has seen bigger numbers, but it's still a very well performing movie, and from what I've seen all over social media, the fan base is very happy with it as well. But off the topic of the original Five Nights at Freddy's, which is what the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is based off of, and onto Security Breach, not Ruin. I haven't played Ruin yet. Yeah, I need to get around to that. But I played Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. It's one of my very favorite video games. I love it a lot. I love the infrastructure that you get the feeling of, the Mega Pizzaplex and all the sort of the inner workings of how the animatronics work and all that. It's a lot of stuff that I geek out with. But anywho, on the topic of advanced animatronics, this is a little keychain I got off of oh goodness, I saw a little thing on Instagram, and I got this off of an Etsy store from said Instagram, and on one side it has sun, and on the other side it has moon. If I can bring that any closer so you guys can actually see it. There's moon, there's sun. A little thank you letter for the support came along, and unfortunately it got a little bit of battle damage when I was opening the package, but I deliberately saved it just for a monthly haul when I showed this off someday, which is today, very thankfully. The last couple of things here I've got on the table, at least. There's a couple more things underneath the table. We've got a couple of iPod Nanos, a 2nd and a 5th gen. The 2nd gen is, well, silver. It's kind of boring, but, you know, it's a 2nd gen. These are very, very well built. They can take a lot of brunt. This is a 5th gen. You can tell that it's a 5th gen because it's got that pooey little, I believe it's a 2 or 3 megapixel camera on the rear that DankPods actually filmed an entire video with. These were gifted to me by my stepfather Steve, aka the guy that worked on the YouTube shed a long while back, for any of those that you remember. Gonna try to my very best to get back to that as well, because the shed is still just sitting. So another little thing to throw out there, some future content that will come out eventually is getting back to work on that YouTube shed, aka my studio space. Anyways, so getting these out of the way, but staying on the topic of Apple, moving on to a couple of gifts that I got from Fixing Faming, however he pronounces it. Sorry, Gav, if I'm mispronouncing it, but yeah. Gavin is a very good friend of mine and a recent-esque friend. These are a couple of things that as I had mentioned earlier, I'm featuring deliberately to give some sort of publicity, and well, it doesn't really work here because, you know, Gavin has a larger YouTube channel, but some credit to some really cool creators, and in this case, a really, really cool guy that I've gotten to know within the couple of years since I've been away from YouTube. So Gavin, or Fixing Faming as he's known on YouTube, he gifted me a couple of things for my birthday, and I really, really, really appreciate it because this adds to my sort of retro older Apple handheld collection. So the first couple of things here are, I'll try to grab this one because it's unrelated to the other two. Yeah. So this is a 1st gen iPod Touch, and it's in immaculate condition. The back, of course, has some scratches because these chrome steel backs were very prone to getting scratched up and very scuffed. But this one, you can still, you can still see that glare. I was just kind of blinding my camera, but it's like a mirror still. I can still see myself in the back. Yeah, I just casually look at myself in the back of iPods. For some amount of time, this was taken very good care of, and it made its way into Gav's hands, and Gav takes very good care of all of his collection, and on top of that, he does a lot of repairs and restores and custom builds on a lot of stuff. If you like techie iPhone stuff or anything like that, custom builds, getting into iPhones, getting into tech and stuff like that, I'd highly recommend go checking out his content because he makes some really, really cool stuff. And then the next thing here is a iPhone 3G. This is the 2nd iPhone ever made, of course with the first iPhone ever being made being the iPhone 2G. This is the iPhone 3G to go along with when 3G networking was going around, kind of like how 5G is going around now. So the iPhone 3G is small. It's pretty small. It's got a black back, which is how you can identify the 3G and the 3GS. Right, and the third and final thing from Gavin over at Fixing Faming once again is a iPhone 3GS, as I was sort of mentioning it earlier when I was talking about the 3G. So the 3G and the 3GS are quite similar from my understanding. I don't know almost any of the technical information. I know that the 3G was the very first iPhone to implement video recording. However, the 3GS, as far as technical knowledge goes, I don't have a lot of knowledge on this. I don't know what processor it has. I don't know any of that for some of you Apple people that may or may not be watching that are curious about that stuff, as if to imply that any Apple nerds that are watching this don't already know. But anywho, I don't know. I just really like these older iPhones. Their design speaks a lot to how the design elements of handheld technology has changed over the years. The other thing that Gav gifted me with the 3GS was a original 3GS box. And notice that it's black. Okay, that sounds really bad. iPhone boxes were originally black. as long as I can remember now, all of the technology that I've collected, all of the Apple stuff at least, has all been in white boxes, which this has the same uniform factor as a modern iPhone box. You take it off, you take this little cover off, and you get your goodies underneath. Of course, this would have come with a charger and headphones and a cable and whatnot, like, you know, a normal product gives you the stuff that you need to use it, unlike modern iPhones that you're lucky to even get a SIM card remover. But anywho, this box is in really, really nice nick. It's got scuffs, it's got scratches, it's got some really minor little dents, but overall, it's in very good condition, and in my opinion, is definitely still worth being in someone's collection. Obviously, it was in Gav's. He purposefully put it into his collection, and he purposefully placed trust in me to take care of it as well. So thank you so much, Gav, from Fixing Faming once again. I really, really appreciate these, with the 3GS going back into its box and being carefully set off to the side. We've got a couple other things here. Here's a little pile. First thing, we've got a sweater here with the Jeep logo on it 3 times, because, you know, 1 time is for squares. But anyways, so it says it, 4 times. Next thing here is a, you know, edition emblem for, well, probably it'll go on Clifford, my 96 Jeep Cherokee, because, well, you know, it fits what the emblem says. It fits the criteria. I was going to put it on my Jeep sooner rather than later, but I was like, you know what, I'm featuring a lot of this other stuff, I might as well feature this. So setting that to the side, and the next thing here is a piece of stone slate that was engraved with my dad's logo. So this is his YouTube channel, English Muffin RC, ever since 2022, put his little year there. I very well might have to get one of these made someday, along with a custom neon sign, because, you know, who doesn't want a custom neon sign? Just some stuff to think about that'd be like cool Joel, let me show memorabilia to have. Got a 3D printed Jeep Cherokee XJ 84 to 2001. Those are the production years of the Jeep Cherokee XJ. And then I've got a Peaky Blinders book with a whole lot of photos and quotes. And I really, really appreciate it. I love the Peaky Blinders. I'm yet to watch the show to completion. I've kind of watched snippets of it here and there, but it's a really cool show. I love the style of clothing that comes from that era. And the last thing here from my father is a High Desert Crawlers sweater. This is, well, High Desert Crawlers is the RC rock crawling group that my dad and myself are a part of. Moving this stuff to the side, the last thing that I've got here is a rug. And this rug is from Ivan, one of my really good friends, another one that, like Gavin, as I was talking about earlier over at Fixing Faming, Ivan is a friend that I've met and gotten to know within the last couple of years. I did technically know him when I was still doing YouTube to some degree, but is after I kind of fell off in 2021 and stopped creating as much on, you know, the daily platform and schedule that I was doing in late 2020, early 2021. But Ivan is a really cool friend of mine that I originally met in a broadcast journalism, well, one of the 3 broadcast journalism classes that I have taken during in high school. But these rugs that a lot of us, especially myself and him, had as kids, these rugs that have streets and all of them on the floor, and I remember distinctly I had a Thomas and Friends version. This is going to be a really, really fun addition to my Jeep. I look forward to cutting these out. Maybe I'll do a little short sometime in the future and show you guys a bit of the process. It's the first time I've gotten a rug for my birthday, but it's pretty cool. Thank you, Ivan. My thanks and gratitude go out to you. Right, and with all that being said, I'm Joel Homie, and if you enjoyed today's video as much as I enjoyed making it, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and if you'd like to see more of my content going into the future when it comes out, make sure to ring that notification bell.